Hello, everybody. Christian Bradley for the Game Institute. We are back, and you're going to see a little bit of the behind the scenes prep going on here because I did not get started early enough and got caught between scenes here. So, you'll need to give me a second to clean this up. That's what we want. Okay. I saved over a file. That's what I'm trying to fix here. Before I forget what I did. There we go. Okay. Still not ready here. Still figuring a few things out. There's what I'm looking for. Okay. Okay. So let me get set up here. Sorry about that. I saved over my file that I had prepared, and then when I was trying to get it set back up, I ran out of time. One more thing I gotta change here. Gotta check that button. It's on by default. I just usually have it off, so that Wacom tablet will work. Okay, we're going to be talking about sculpting details on our objects. We've been talking about sculpting details for quite a while now. Quite often, this one will be talking a little bit about some new tools here, so that everything will run well when we get into the detailing part of our sculpting. And a good word of warning is it works even better when your Wacom tablet's plugged in, which mine isn't. So let's see. Okay. Everything's working now. So we're going to sculpt some detail on this bow here using some stencils and some other techniques. I'll show you the final version that is what I came up with here. There we go. So that's kind of what we're after. So we're going to be talking about how to do these details here, these, and these grip type details. So I'm going to go back to my first file here. We're going to go ahead and do all the normal stuff. So we're going to add our multi-resolution modifier to this. We're going to subdivide it. We're looking at our faces up here to make sure we don't add too many faces. This should be good. We're at about 700,000 right there. Remember, you can go up and down in your iterations using these tools right here. And this is already unwrapped. I'm not going to hop over to the unwrap, but it's already unwrapped, which we'd want it to be at this point. And what we're after would be a high poly we'd bake down to a low poly. That's ultimately what we're going to be doing here. And we'll go over to sculpt mode, and we have been here before. There are our brushes. So I'm going to start with clay strips. And first let's start with this leather grip type stuff going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and check my settings, make sure the stroke is set up okay. It looks like it is. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, all right. And I'm going to go down here to the curve. And by default, it's this kind of lazy S curve. I'm going to set it to this one. It looks like a little staple. And what it's actually doing is it's making, the brush curve is way up here at the top. So it's kind of like an ink pen. It has sharp edges on both sides. And you can see when I scrub that in, I can get those sharp edging. Oh, I also should mention I have symmetry on here. It's on in my file already, but under symmetry, and I have it on the X right now, but obviously we can turn that on, whatever we want. So whatever I do to one side is going to happen to the other. All right, F will set my brush. I'm going to get a good size here for this. That looks about right. Okay, and how I did that was I carefully came in here and just started scrubbing in some details. Just like that. Now, I didn't, you know what, that's a little bit too wide right now. Make that a little bit smaller. There we go. Yeah, much better. And all I'm going to do is just kind of scrub that in one side. Don't worry about the sides up here and down here. We'll take care of them. There's a trick to that. And you know what? I'm still not liking that. I think we're going to switch over to the regular brush here. Not fond of that either. Let's see what we... Alright, that's a little better. Alright, and we'll just kind of scrub that in. One other thing I forgot to do is on my symmetry, it's the same on the top and the bottom, and I forgot to turn that on too. So let's turn that on. Z, I believe. Yeah, so see it's kicking in down here. And just because I'm picky, I think I'm going to go back to clay strips. Because I liked that better than I was getting with the regular brush. Okay, that's looking good. So we're just going to kind of scrub those in. And you can see by setting the symmetry like I did, I don't have to go up and down all the way across. And then here, what I'm going to do is angle up, and I don't know if the video will show that off as well, but watch this one here. I'm just going to angle up, and it's going to make a cross pattern. Or like leather strapping overlapping itself. Can you see that? There we go. And I'm going to go in here, tighten this up. Now don't worry about it being perfect. I'll show you how we can really tighten this up in a minute. Okay, we'll do the same thing here. Does that make sense what I'm doing there? Make that crossing pattern. It's kind of angling up. There we go. They really don't have to match up perfect. All right, now if we go over here to the, I think it's pinch, no, crease. We'll go to crease, and we'll just tighten those up. And what it's going to do is give it a nice, tight crease between the leather. Between the leather between the brush strokes. How about that? There you go. It's a nifty little trick. Okay, so we've got those in there. Let's go ahead and do the beading that I had here along the top. What should we use? Let's use blob for this. We haven't used that very much. And for this one, I'm going to go down to spacing. And I kind of have to guess. I'm going to bump the spacing up to really what is a random number here. Oh, I got it pretty close. Okay. So I use 76%. Now remember, the spacing is based off of how fast you drag it across the surface and the spacing. So your results may be different than mine. It's also the scale plays into it too. So I'm just going to drag this across there. And the brush stroke, I should explain that. The brush stroke is this stroke plus whatever you're choosing up here. So right now it's giving me that kind of beady texture. And again, I'm going to go back to, I think, this staple looking one, and that should give me a little bit sharper. Oh, that's way too sharp. How about this one? I don't like that one either. Maybe like the one we started with best. Yeah, I think that's the best one. Okay. And we'll play with the strength here, because right now it's not really taken very well. There we go. And the spacing is fine, but I think the size is too big. And I'm hitting the F key to control the size. There we go. And I'm just going to drag this across that edge. If you want a smooth stroke, you can click this smooth stroke, and what it's going to do, it's the same as other programs that use smooth stroke. It's going to kind of put a little handle on the stroke, which you can't see right now because there we go. It's that little handle, and it's just like a little rudder or a balancer. And so it's just going to drag at the end of the smooth stroke. And I find a lot of people kind of get thrown off with that because it's dragging at the end of the smooth stroke, not at the front where you would think. I think it's kind of weird that it does that, but that's how it works. All right. Same thing here. There we go. So I'm going to turn off smooth stroke and get those guys in there a little bit. Smooth this down. Okay, and the spacing now we'll put back to about 10. That's the normal. Between 6 and 10 will work. There we go. And I'm using the S key. Or sorry, shift key to smooth that down. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add that detailing that you saw here, that kind of filigree work. Now to do that, we need to, well, make sure we have a material on it, because the material is going to activate the texture spot, and we need the texture spot. Then we're going to hit new. Then we're going to go down here to open. I'm going to open this diamond pattern, but you can open anything. It loads it as if it's a texture. It's not applying it to the material right now because we're going to turn off color and make sure that it's not there. And then we're going to come over here to our texture, click on this guy, and there it is. You have to load it over here for it to show up here. It's weird. Way over here, but that's how it works. So then we will go to, what should we use? Let's try clay strips for this. Make my brush a little bigger. And my spacing's off. Getting these, oh, it didn't take. There we go. Getting these textures to work. See that rough texture? That's because the spacing is so tight on it. And again, you kind of have to guess what spacing you want for something like this. I'm not really sure what I want. Let's try that a little bit less. See how it's stamping on top of itself a little bit? You would think 100 would do it. In some programs that's what makes it work, but not Blender. And I don't like how that's working. Give me just a second. Let me try something else here. Let's go to sculpt mode. Oh, stencil, that's what I want, right? Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. Let's put that back. So I'm going to use this as a stencil so that I can see the texture here and place it in this spot. I go under brush mapping here and just bump this down or up to stencil. And you should see the stencil appear down here in the corner, which of course isn't where we want it. And I have forgotten how I moved the stencil. What was it? It's not grab. Oh, you didn't know that. If you hit G, it goes to the grab brush. Huh. I did not know that. Okay, we're on stencil. How do I move the stencil? I forgot. Give me a second to look that up. I'll figure it out. I'll get it. It's here somewhere. What's it called? Everything I'm getting is not showing up. What is the key? Okay, let's do this. Isn't there a what's the info bar? Now I forgot what the info bar is. We've completely come to a stop here as I try to figure this out. Here it is. Okay, space is the info bar. Now, stencil brush control, right mouse. Okay. really, there we go. Okay, so right mouse, and what is rotate? Scale is shift. Control is rotate. Okay, so how we do this, okay, so how we move the stencil around is the right mouse button. Now I'm using right mouse. That should mean it's the right mouse button. Okay, right mouse button. Shift will, well, just moving the right mouse button is going to move it around. Shift, holding the right mouse button, is going to scale it. So I'm going to scale that down a little bit. And Control is going to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate that a little bit. And so what I'm trying to do is fit this right in that area. See how that little star fits right in there? And now, using any brush that you want, I'm going to use the clay brush, with whatever settings you want, you can now kind of paint that. My spacing's off here. You can paint that into place. A little bit lower. There we go. Rotate our map around. Now, it's not going to rotate with the object because it's basically attached to the viewport. So then we go back to positioning it. You can see we want to kind of tie those designs in a little bit. Don't worry if you go into some other areas. We can always smooth those out. And that's pretty good. Let's go around to the front here. And we'll move this over. I need to rotate it. So you kind of have to get used to controlling both things. So for instance, I can move my model around as I normally would. And then I can move my stencil around using the right mouse button. So it's kind of like trying to drive and talk on your cell phone at the same time. There we go. So that's pretty good. Now we'll paint that in, see what it looks like. Okay, we can turn stencil off here, go back to view plane. And now we have, well, it's kind of chunky looking. If we were to bump our back to our modifiers. If we were to subdivide this again, it's going to get sharper. There you go. And it's going to get sharper. So what we're after, I'm going to go ahead and open up the last version here. This is what we would end up with if we spent some more time cleaning it up, making it nice. We would end up with something like that. You can see the filigree work up at the top is a little bit sharper, but same idea. So a few new tools for you to use with your sculpting. I really like those tools. Makes it real easy to get good results. Let's see, what else do we have here? You can see I've also played with this up here too. I don't know if this bow really needs anything else. Is that a texture map? Let me see if this has a texture map. No, no texture map for that. So we got a little bit of time here. I finished up a little bit early. I'm going to play with a few settings here real quick just to see how this works. this is the mask setting. And so whatever is dark is masked. Like so. And usually we use masking to try and get a sharp line. So if I come up here to, well, we'll use clay strips, it's easy enough. I still have this on. And so we can kind of get grooves and things using these tools. So now if I get a smaller brush and smooth this out, hold down shift, just kind of level it out a little bit. There's a way to turn the mask on and off, and I've forgotten how to do it. It's a button. I've forgotten how to do it. Is there options? No. Get it off right now. And let's go to flatten. So we can get that kind of groove in there. And what is turn off mask? Turn off mask. What's the button? The M key? Nope, not the M key. Oh, it's a menu entry. It's not a button. It's hide mask, clear mask. Where's that at? Where is it? Oh, here it is. There we go. Hide mask, and we want hide mask. No, that turns it off. That's not what we want, but that's a nifty trick. Show all, and I didn't know it would do that. That's not that one. Not a brush. And clear the mask, but that doesn't really make it so that it will come back on. But anyways, that's how you do it. Smooth that out a little bit. So you can come up with kind of cool grooves using that mask feature. I'm going to have to play with that more. I don't think I've used it much. So that gives you a few tools to use with the details. A few more tools. We've been dealing with those quite a bit lately. So that is going to do it for today. Now tomorrow we are back twice. We are here at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. Let me check. What's our times tomorrow? We are here tomorrow at 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time. So that's at 5 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning GMT time. All right, that is going to do it for today, folks. See you later. Bye.